Good morning, everybody. This is Angela Coulter and
Sieg, Avignone.
bringing you this week's Ascended World live stream today on podcast. We're doing this live on Facebook for the first time, so hopefully it goes pretty smoothly. So far, so good. So we will I'm going to repeat again because people are joining as we talk. Just FYI, we're coming in through a third-party software so that we both can do this live together on Facebook. And so there's a little bit of a delay of when we're talking to what was popping up on Facebook. So if you comment on something and we don't see it right away, just be patient because it just probably hasn't popped up on our screen yet. I think that's right. I don't know. We'll see. Okay.
We'll
Okay.
figure it out.
We'll figure it out. We always do. So where are we starting today?
Well, I had a theme over the weekend that I thought I would share, whether it's what we end up focusing on or not. I'm sure it'll lead us to where we need to go. At the end of last week, we were talking about um, self support and stepping into that power. Remember when we were talking about that?
Yeah.
And over the weekend, I found that it really makes a difference. And it's not what I envisioned it being.
Yeah.
It was really very, I don't know, I felt it a lot physically, and it felt different than I expected it to feel. And it was almost, energy level and everything else, but it wasn't, it wasn't overwhelming, and it was almost like a tweak to everything. It permeated everything. And I found that it wasn't you think stepping into your own power is powerful. Well, it was, but it was very subtle power, and it was very, I guess, more empowering than, you think of power as like surging, but this was just very solid, empowering movement.
Right.
I guess that's the best way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed that too. Hold on, I think I'm getting cut off a little bit. There we go, my camera. Hopefully it won't fall over because it gets all wobbly sometimes. I have noticed that with the whole like ways to celebrate me thing, as
Hmm.
well. And it all ties in together because when we celebrate ourselves, we're allowing ourselves to step into our power. We're doing what our heart's telling us to do. We're honoring ourselves. And I have noticed, like, I know you're talking about very subtle things, and most people wouldn't even think of saying that this would be part of stepping into your power, but it is. Like, even things like saying no when you would normally say yes on something,
Right.
right? When it would just be giving away a little tiny bit of your power by saying, yeah, okay, and people say, oh, it's compromise and things like that, but it's really not that.
Well, and I also felt that it was truly a remembering, that it was
Hmm.
almost like the the memories allowed it to integrate so quickly by aligning with the remembrance of my power.
Yes.
And that's
Yeah.
the part that just, it almost felt giddy. Like, oh my God.
Hmm.
It was like the shoe really fit. It wasn't like, oh, I have to break it in, or oh, I have to remember this, or oh, it just fit like a glove.
Yeah, and to back up for anybody, listening or watching or whatever, we did an actual share on Thursday, right? Thursday?
I think it
Yeah.
was Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Thursday
Thursday.
evening. It was like late in the day Thursday, where we actually just we did work on each other, like, which of course then was related, and then, one led into another, and it was like a two-parter kind of thing, since one did one and one did the other. But that had to do with stepping into our power and doing so on new terms too, like on a whole new level of, and I think that's part of the giddiness too, because it's like such a free feeling. You know, we've been talking about over the past several weeks well, I don't even know, has it been several weeks about that whole like dimensional shift and recognizing that we have shifted dimensionally. Um, and that part of the clunkiness of what's been coming up over and over and over again that sort of feels like we're throwing up again and again are things that we've been holding on to from the old ways, right? The old dimensions, the old whatever, um, the old ways we've existed as human physically. And so they've been sort of holding us down and weighing us down, which again then goes back to many of us gaining weight, right?
Right.
So part of this is like really shedding ourselves of all these things that we have let ourselves like, and they are subtle, right? So many layers, like you're saying. So
Yeah.
when we shift like these little things, like it really makes a difference. And many people think, oh, well, what's the difference? This is just a little thing. But a little thing could be, you know, if we say one little thing, it ends up being 1,000 little things, and then that's another, 10 pounds of weight, or
Right.
whatever.
Well, and it's little things in everything you do,
Right.
which it's small but multiplied across everything you do just makes it such a huge distraction.
Yeah.
Whether it's weight, whether it's illness, whether it's
Right. All kinds of stuff.
financial problems, whether it's health,
Relationship issues. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, or all of it.
Yeah, or all of the above. Yeah, and so where we started was aligning the allowance of, I don't even remember what the intention was, but it ended up being really powerful for both of us. Um,
Right,
allowing ourselves truly that authenticity, and I can't remember what the words are, in alignment with that freedom, right? So if
right,
we want to call it freedom in our consciousness, freedom in our, authenticity and power and divinity, or we simply want to bite it into biteable chunks and say, so I'm going to just step into my power and say this new freer dimension and really let go of the old expectations, right? Because what was then plaguing me were these little tiny agreements, right? Remember
right,
that had come up in like dreams, and I was like, I don't understand. It was such a weird, like experience, and um, like old agreements that of like the way things would run or whatever were just feeling really clunky, and they were dying away and falling apart, and yet they were still trying to be a part of my reality where I just needed to step into it and be like, yeah, nope, thank you for that, and that's done now, and now I'm free of that.
right.
Funny enough, I had a quick conversation with Jen Warrington, who taught practitioner class this weekend right before we got on. And she said that a really sort of interesting, odd blip that came up when they were practicing had to do with outdated underlying agreements with outside influences on how we assert our power, right?
Well,
So
there you go.
yeah, I was like, I sort of laughed. I was like, okay, that's the same thing. And like with her, with her, or with the person or people that she was working with, um, it had to do specifically with things like secret society groups, like the Illuminati, or the Knights
Oh,
Templar, or like things like that, or covens, and it's like, well, because you got to do it this way, and with these people, and the same way, and all that kind of stuff. And really, it was breaking out of those old paradigms into what we're talking about now, is moving forward in a completely free and individual way to really express our divinity the way we came here to do that.
right, right. And
And we
it's,
can,
if you wanna boil it down to just basic terms, it's just holding that different vibration.
yeah. Well, it's not holding, but living it, right? Knowing how
Right.
to live it while holding it, which that's the subtlety. You know, it's a challenging thing. Another thing that Jen and I were talking about briefly this morning was, um, how do you explain that words have become limiting in words?
Right.
Friday night I went to a sound bath thing, right, where the woman does the crystal bowls and various things, and she has these crystals, that I posted about, those crystal chimes, and
Hmm.
each they're called Moshi chimes, Moshi chimes, and they're like made in the Pyrenees Mountains, and with bamboo and blah blah blah, but they're all like each one is sort of attuned with a different element, and I'll tell you what. They spoke to me like the alchemy bowls speak to me, and it like they literally had their own language. And when she held the two on either side of my head, because we were laying down and she's walking through and doing it for everybody who's there, it was incredible. Like it was the same that I get when we go to Bev's in Mount Shasta and she does that thing and they just start talking to you,
Right.
like for lack of a better term. And like what I had gotten a long time ago is, well, these kind of things, like we can help to relay to people what they don't yet allow themselves to remember, which is that this is way beyond words. Like our connection, our creation is beyond words. It's before words even form.
Right.
And if we are still limiting ourselves in any way, then we're like impeding ourselves from getting there, right? And that includes with giving away our power, giving our authenticity. And you and I have talked about this topic so many times,
Right.
but it's like just another like layer that we're peeling off, I think.
Well, I think we're coming from a different orientation. I guess that's the best way I'm looking at it is we've shifted to a new place, and so now the power comes from a different place. So it's yet
Yeah,
again another tweak that magnifies that.
right, right. And it's funny because it's being conscious about every single thing that we do, that we say, that we have interaction with. And it was almost like I was hyper aware all weekend of all of that.
Yeah.
And it was really smooth and it was fun and easy. And the way people interacted with me was fun and easy, even the people who can be difficult with, like in my reality. And it was just, it's good to be able to see that. And so many like look at this and say, well, how do I do that? It's like, well, this goes back to all the different, like, shares we've done, before this. It's just one thing upon the other. We keep on opening the petals further.
Right. Right. And Yasmin's agreeing.
Yeah.
And Susan just
So, yep, I can see that. I have my little phone here scrolling around now. So we've solved that little problem. So that's good. Um, so I'm still And the thing that's good is that I see things very easily. Like if I'm not doing that, then all of a sudden it feels completely incongruent with everything else. Like even if I, for
right.
a moment,
Flip back.
like flip back, yeah, and it's like immediately it just doesn't feel good.
Right. It's like, oh yeah, no, I can't do that anymore.
It was
Yeah.
funny because so my husband and I went and looked at two different houses yesterday, right? And the second house, I literally pulled up and I went to get out of my car and I couldn't even get out of my car. I was looking at the house and I'm like, nope. That was it. That
Not
was just
happening.
that was just the statement right there. It was nope. And and then I was like, no, well, we're here. We might as well get out. We have the agent here, whatever. And I got out of my car and I'm like standing there and I'm just looking at the house. I like couldn't like leave the curb, and she the agent, which is, for us, a buyer agent, who I know really well, who's been a client for years and whatever. She's really in the oh, I just lost Sarah.
I think we froze. I think we froze up. There you go. Am I back?
Yep, there you are. Okay.
It caught up.
But then all of a sudden it said nobody's sharing video. I was like, oh, I'm just by myself. But anyway, so she said, so she knows where I am about stuff. So she goes, what's the matter? Like, what was funny was she didn't leave her car either. She was parked right in front of me. And she looks up and she goes, what do you see? And I'm like, yeah, I just don't like this house. house already. And she goes, yeah, there's something wrong with it, isn't it? There's something like just not right. And I'm like, yeah. But we did like, just because she took the time to go out there, we walked through the house and stuff, and it was just really funny, like immediately. And the whole time I was walking through the house, I heard nope, 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 no. It was so funny. Even the good parts of it, like I was like, nope, 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 nope. And she was the same way. So whatever was there just wasn't for us. So, but things like that, and like you don't think how does that like relate to your um power, right? But it's listening to the voice that just says, nope.
Right. Well, and trusting it.
And trusting it, right? Which, if I was really 100% authenticity, I could have just said, yeah, I don't think we need to see this house. It's definitely a no. Let's just leave and not waste our time, you know. But, like it's the clarity of the voice, that inner voice. And when we're clear on our own authentic truth, I've just found that people react so much more clearly to me.
Right. Right. It's that, I don't know, it's easier to come from a place of unconditional everything.
Yeah.
Unconditional authenticity, unconditional love, unconditional power. I mean, it's that place of unconditionality that
Yeah.
just, I guess that's, see, and when I say that, I just feel that bubbly, giddy feeling of, I got this. Because it's not second nature, it's nature.
Okay. Oh, so this is what I did notice. Okay. So here's the thing that I did notice, like when you said that, the bubbly giddiness, right? Because I've been having that too, right? But what came up to me in a very subtle, just like, and I was very conscious of it, was, but really, would it be that fun if it were this easy all the time? Still.
Hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, yeah, honestly, yes, it would be.
Yeah, because that's I guess what I found was that, oh my God, this is so easy. And then I would find myself slipping back into that, oh God, but what if it goes back to the way it was?
Right. Well, because we have to give
And it's
ourselves some
almost like a
drama.
panic.
Right. Right. And the thing is, no, because if we create from now, the only reason it would go back to the way it was is because for some reason, would like to recreate that still.
Right, right,
Because we think it's better to have the drama, it's better to have the challenge, and I sit there and I laugh at myself. Like I don't even judge myself. I just sort of laugh at myself now when I see that, like when I see that come up, going, well, and it's really fun looking at houses right now because then I can really see that as we walk through houses, because you don't realize how many things you think, oh, I deserve this or I don't deserve
right,
this.
right,
And it's so funny as something as simple as looking at a house. Like you can see that because it's a different environment, than your day-to-day stuff. And it was just, so I was really conscious of that. And I think that's been a really good exercise. But we don't even realize that underneath we still have these things of, oh, I deserve this much or this is enough, right? Or, I deserve like 80%. So it was funny. We were even talking with the agent who's like, well, there's like the 80-10-10 rule and that we talk about in real estate, which is like
right,
80% of what you want, 10% of what you can live with, and 10% of what you definitely have to change, right? And I'm
right.
like, what if I just found something that was 100% because I deserve that?
Exactly.
And so it's funny though, if you think when we say things like that, and she goes, oh, well, they say that about marriage too. And I was like, what?
I haven't heard it about marriage, but
And I said, well, I don't know that I would agree. I said, I don't know that I would agree with it. I said, I see that that's the standard. I said, but I don't work from the standard. So,
right. Well, my daughter and I were even talking about it. She's been struggling. She moved back in and has been struggling to fit her stuff back in her small space, and she's really been struggling with it. And just I've left her to it because it's not my struggle. It's really not my struggle, even though it's a struggle to look at it all. And slowly but surely she's getting there. And this past weekend I said, so what have you done today? And she said, this last little bit is just so hard. And I said, I know it's hard to just sit back and not tell yourself, oh, this is good enough. And that look how far I've come and that this is good enough.
Because that's what we do all the time.
Right, right. And but it's like, that's where we've been. Creation from separation has been good enough.
Right. Well, and we
And
believe it has to be a struggle. There has to be conflict. There has to be,
it has to be
friction.
hard.
Right. And so you can only get to have enough, good enough, because you need to have some more friction because otherwise you wouldn't grow. That's what we believe.
Right, right.
Even if
Well,
we say we don't.
and in this project, that may have been the case. That may have been how it was designed.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where we thought we wanted to experience.
Right. Well,
And
now it's time to change
now
that.
it's done. And now it's done, and we've moved on.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's what,
So
and that's what I said.
just good enough doesn't work anymore.
No, no, I deserve 100%. You deserve 100%.
Right.
And yes, there is room in separation for a creation to have it all interrelate perfectly while we all accommodate our own potential 100%. Because I do still believe we have some underlying stuff around that we have to give some time to like others, like sacrifice our own. That's that 80-10-10, right? That we have to sacrifice, even like when we get to there, that we have to sacrifice our own wants for whatever, for somebody else's like journey or path to help them along on their path. And I'm like, well, there's a difference by saying to yourself, I'm not going to do what I want to do. I'm not going to do what I feel like I would, like serves me to do this for another person, when the intention is underlying intention is because I have enough, because it is, I have enough. So therefore, I'm going to help, like I'm going to give up this part of me for the other person. Instead of, and underlying to that is that I have to sacrifice part of me for that person to get all of them or to get enough of them, right? And these are very subtle things. I was explaining this to somebody a couple of weeks ago, actually, and it's a challenging thing because it's so many layers deep to say, but if I stay in that authenticity and unconditional love, and I truly trust that voice, as loud as it becomes when I stay in that authenticity, right? I might just be guided, like then our wants sort of like, I don't want to say they go away, but like our egoic wants go away, and we just see the big picture of creation, right?
Right.
And then if we're guided to help somebody, it's a much different energy. If we're guided to do something that's different than what we had planned, that's one thing than to trust and just say, okay, obviously this was obviously there's something else, right?
Right.
So it's sort of like, like going back to the house thing, the house that my husband and I fell in love with, that, is under contract and in the process of being purchased. And I was like, we love that house. Love, love, love that house. However, what I was thinking about over the weekend too was, yeah, I love that house and its potential because of the stuff that we could do with it, like before we resold it and everything else. If we got it, that would be great. And not a but. And I'm also worth finding a house though that I could just walk into and not have to do all that work, right? And not have to and yes, of course, realize the house's potential always, or realize the potential of my surroundings, but not have to really put in so much, feel like I have to put in so much work to gain that value, right? Because I already have it. And when I walk into it saying, I do deserve 100%, not just 80. I do deserve walking in and saying, this is perfect. So, and that's like for everything. That's for relationships in our lives. Because that's what we do. And it's true. I was thinking about that when she said that about marriage, and I said, holy crap, I think that's what we really believe.
Right.
not only is that what we believe, the 80-10-10 thing in marriage and relationships and partnerships, but I think we even go lower than that to like 60
Right.
20 right?
Right.
And I'm just like, because we think this is good enough. Because I feel like I'm in lack, because I have to have somebody in my life, because I have to have this relationship, and without somebody in my life in a relationship, then I have this hole, or I can't do this, or I won't be able to support myself. I mean, there's so many things we tell ourselves, right? There's so many layers. This is like a massive, huge, monstrous spider web underneath everything, right?
Right.
And
Well, it's a basis of where we've lived from.
yeah, and when we commit to that authenticity, then we don't even have to think about any of those layers, because the authenticity just speaks for itself.
Right.
Because the authenticity then allows us to be 100% authentic and just listen to the guidance 100%. And it's not in any way, even tiniest bit, from the ego anymore. Well, I guess it's still got to be, because you're still an individual at some point. But from the lack, from the idea of lack, it comes from an idea of wholeness. And that, yeah, if I'm whole, why wouldn't I deserve everything else that comes to me in 100%
Mm-hmm.
in my creation? And maybe that's part of what we've done in shifting to this dimension, the dimensional shift and where we're going next. I think that's really important. Yasmin wrote, yes, very relevant for me right now.
Yep.
So it's just, I
Well, and
just felt,
I think we're at a place right now to where this shift to this new place, and then this shift to remembering the power that comes from this place, changes our vibration in such that people are going to be attracted to that vibration, because it's such a relief.
right.
And then they come to you more on those terms, because it's void of that negativity and that burden and that harshness where we've been. And people are looking for that relief.
Yes.
So whether it's more authentic relationships, whether it's more authentic means of self-support, more authentic, dynamics with friends, family, workplace, whatever. I think that it is such a relief, and or you're going to have the exact opposite of people who can't bear to be around you, but it will be such an absolute that it's like it just happens, and they're gone.
Yes. And that happens a lot right now as people are stepping into that more, even at different, all of us in different degrees. I see that a lot, and I see that on all the, the spiritual discussion boards and things like that about, oh, well, is it normal that I'm losing all my friends, or a lot of people are falling away and it makes me sad. And I'm like, it's funny that we do that. Our first knee-jerk reaction when those things happen is it makes us sad, it makes us defensive, makes us whatever.
And it makes us question ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. But then instead of looking at it saying, okay, well, these people falling out of my life is removing this energy that doesn't serve me in my life.
Right now.
And thank you. Right now. And thank you. I'm thankful for what they've provided me, and what we provide each other. And maybe we'll come back around later, and maybe we won't.
Right.
And that's okay. And I just, there are a number of people that's happened with me, and I just send them love. I have no judgment about them. Or whatever. It's just that we're not vibing. And there are many people who we've been out of each other's energy fields for really a long time, because we just need different things. And then we come back together for whatever. And it's just different energy. But when we do that from authenticity, it's so much easier.
Right. And it's almost picking right back up where you were, but not.
Right, because you're not in the same energy anymore, so it's a different interaction. And then you don't spend all this time going back to, well, you used to do this, or you
Right.
used to do this, right?
Right.
And and it's that's true presence too, is being in that place of right now with somebody else.
Exactly.
Not even what
Exactly.
you were like yesterday or last week.
Right.
Especially these days, it's like, whatever, I'm so different today than I was last week or last month or 6 months ago.
Right.
So, and these kind of things are really subtle, but there's so many of them. So that the key for us is just, I think, creating in that space of, like, when I go, like, when we were talking on our share on Thursday, and I said, when I first started, before I even started talking, like, when you said, okay, well, what do you want to work on? And I was like, I don't even know, right? I didn't have words for it because I was like, well, I'm not really setting like specific intentions. But then it started coming out. I was like, oh wait, this has felt a little icky, and this came
Right.
up, and I want to shift this. So, yeah,
Well, and I think in those shares we ended up with, we talk about eating from the tree of knowledge. Well, we're getting porridge from a
the
different
porridge. I was just thinking of that.
level of knowledge, a different, realm, reality, dimension, whatever you want to call it, where we are right now. And I do think that the time is now for that.
Yes. And why we laughed about the porridge, for anybody who's listening, is that both of us saw Archangel Metatron came into both of our both the shares that we did, and in both of them, he's like got this bowl of porridge. It was so funny. Like, what the hell is that? I don't know. When I saw it with Sarah, I was like, I don't know. It looked like he had porridge, but I don't know what that was. He was sitting at a table. And then in the second one, he was making us eat some, right? Out of the bowl.
Right. It was like
Right?
almost like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and we were having
Yeah.
to eat the porridge.
And he was like, well, this is so much this is a much different level of remembrance than the apple kind of thing. Or, yeah, totally different. Totally different level now. It was funny. Um, oh, Yasmin said, oh my God, came to me last night. And that's funny because, yeah, for the past week, Metatron just keeps on coming up, which is really
Right.
funny. So obviously he's hanging around. Um, so yeah, and and all I can feel is that creating and existing from that place of authenticity and committing ourselves to that at this, I want to say, next level of remembrance, right? Really frees us up in so many ways, and at the same time unravels so many other things that
Right.
just don't even become a consideration anymore. When you just say,
Right.
nope, nope, that's not for me. Or yes, even though that wasn't for me yesterday, it might be for me today.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think that this is laying the groundwork for where we are right now,
Yeah.
to reestablishing relationships and with everything on a totally different level.
Well, yeah, because when we come from authenticity and then we hold the energy of that where others come to us with their authenticity, then it becomes such an easier interaction because then there's no need from each other. There's no um, expectations.
And it's almost like it's a place of no lessons right now. It's just that unconditional.
Unconditional being. Well, and it's funny because people say, well, we don't have to, like, it's not to do, like, we're human beings, this thing for us to remember how to be. But while we are still here incarnate, this part of our consciousness, it is important for us to do because that's part of this thing, this creation. But the thing is to do from being, and that's a very different place to do it from.
Right. Right.
Instead of, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was like, that came to me in meditation yesterday, and I wrote that down in my journal, and I was like, I got it while I was out there, but I'm not quite sure. Like, but I get it. When I say it, I can feel that again where I was when I was meditating. Because we think we need to be from doing, right? What are we from what we do, right?
Right.
But when we do from being, we create from our consciousness and authenticity. That makes a completely different energy.
Right. Which contributes to the power that we've been talking about, is that power of authenticity, the power of who you really are.
Yep. So Joy wrote, exactly, we still have to do well figuring out how to just be. Well, the thing is, just being is the core of our focus. And then the doing comes from the being. It's not, well,
Right.
it is, and it's not. And it's just, it is, it is, and it's not.
Right. So the more you're comfortable with your state of being, the easier the doing flows.
Yes. And the creation from that.
Right.
And then everything just becomes totally effortless.
Right. And that's the power and the freedom.
Yeah. And it was funny because I pretty much, that's like, so when we were talking about how that came through this whole weekend, it was really nice, flowing, full, eh, and it was like nothing like particularly extraordinary, but
Hmm.
it just flowed so easily. Excuse me, there's my yawn. So easily. And what I find more and more, like to go back to the being, is when I go into meditation, and I do set creation statements, right? But a lot of my creation is simply um, I embody unconditional love.
Hmm.
I embody my pure authenticity, my pure divine authenticity, like things like that. Those are pretty much like, if I do creation statements, that's what I do.
Right.
Um, and then when I go out there, it's great because it's so powerful, because the longer I stay out there, the more like my energy just gets so big, right? And then I just see these things, they just sort of blip, like I'll see little tiny blips that sort of fall away, and it's really cool, because then it's like, oh, that just felt really nice and effortless completely. And then I'm in a completely different place when I come back, return,
Right.
um, every time. Which is again why I really strongly here's my PA. I strongly encourage everyone to do their self work every day.
That's right. Yeah. Well, when I couldn't sleep last night, I just meditated on that. I am embodying my power,
Yeah,
and oh wow,
yeah. I'm
that was
embodying my full divine power.
right. That was powerful.
Really? Yeah, and then that comes from that place of the words are unimportant,
Hmm.
right? Like, even though they're important because the mind needs to know what we're doing, like it believes it needs to know what we're doing, they're becoming so far less important, except just as a structure for us to remember how to be there.
Right.
I know, because I think I use the word extraordinary, amazing, magical, like, to such an excess these days that they've sort of lost their meaning. But
Right.
because we really don't have any other words, I mean, and actually they're like a little blip of really the meaning of most of the times when I'm posting or writing or using that word. But we just don't have anything more powerful that forms in language. Excuse me. Oh, there's a yawn again. So there's something to tie together with all of this today. Um, any ideas how to tie that together?
Well, I know the things that I thought about when I couldn't sleep last night was I am remembering my full power. I am embodying my full power. I am my full power. Um, I allow, and something feels big trying to come up. The
Come
word
on, keep
ignite. Yeah,
on.
the word ignite keeps coming to me. Like I ignite the power of my full being. Ooh,
Oh, I like that.
that felt really good. Yeah, that feels really good. Yeah, I kind of like that one. I'm not sure I can improve on that right now.
Yeah, no, that feels good. I ignite power of my full being. And so that's just one of those things where it's such a simple statement, and yet to really live in that vibration just clears away. I just think of the anvils that we saw last week, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
I just kept on taking these anvils out of my pocket in the chair and just throwing them on, looking, oh yeah, nope, sorry, thank you so much. And then dropping the anvil on it, watching it just go.
yeah.
No, thank you so much, done with that. And thank you so much, I'm done with that. But yeah, igniting the power of my full being means that there is nothing that is not in my power. And that
Right,
just pushes us into that authenticity. And many are afraid of that.
right.
You know, the thing, it's interesting. I want to go back to that for a minute. We were saying about people falling away, right? Because when you do hold that energy, it does become more common for those who cannot hold that energy to fall away because you're holding your space, right? When we start holding our space, in a particular vibration of unconditional love or wherever your vibration is, and anybody can join as long as they match that vibration or higher. If they don't feel like they're in that place, even if it's subconscious, that they can hold that vibration for themselves, then it will repel them often if
Right.
they won't allow that matching the energy, right? So, um, and that happens with because I have a lot of and the reason I want to bring this up is I'm being pinged to bring it up is that I've had a lot of discussions with different practitioners and not just Trinity practitioners, excuse me, practitioners of different types, but mostly Trinity practitioners, where we have these discussions, and I've had this experience myself, is I've had people literally be angered with me when we have the discussion about whatever chronic ailment or issue they have in their life. Um, if like, and I'm talking about even people who've come to me for sessions and stuff like that, and we're talking about it, and I'm like, so you can change that if you choose.
Right.
And there's never any judgments with that, but I'll tell you what, that triggers that triggers a lot of people because we have so much identity and stuff built around that lack and sickness and
Well,
that we can never change it and that I can only go so far, get so better, and that's the good enough thing, right?
right. Right.
It's only good enough, like it's good enough for me to take pills, and I'm not trashing the pharmaceuticals or anything, but I'm just saying, but this is what we think. It's okay for me to take pills to stop this discomfort, and that's good enough. I don't have to actually solve what's underneath it that's causing me to have that issue to begin with.
Right.
That's the biggest challenge that we have as like energy healing facilitators and helping people tap into that energy within themselves is one of the biggest steps is coming into that place of authenticity to say, yeah, I am fully responsible for the creation of my reality, which includes anything considered disease, chronic ailments, allergies, rashes,
Money.
cancer, money,
Lack of money.
yep, abusive relationships,
Exactly.
um, a crappy job, no job, things like,
Right.
or no, like, which of course then translates also into money, you
Right.
know,
Right.
or, you know, um, or
Loneliness.
being raped or abused or, all kinds of stuff. And when you say you can change that, it's your choice. The ego just goes, ah, right now. I've always talked about that openly, but it seems like the higher we go in terms of where we're creating our reality, the easier it just triggers somebody who's like can't even grasp that concept, right? Because I've had somebody say to me, "Oh, well, no, I can't change this because I have all of this, like, look, um, I went to the hospital and I had all these tests and my blood tests came back this way and everything's screwed up and blah, 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 and I have to do this and da, da. And after I do all that, then I'll work on the underlying stuff." And I'm like, but do you realize it's the underlying stuff that's causing that? And when you
Right.
shift that, all that stuff's just going to go away. So you don't have to do all the band-aids to get to that stuff. You have to do all that stuff to let go of needing to have the band-aids to begin with. So again, again, it goes back to that's a really, oh, that was a great correlation to the, instead of doing to be, being to do, like coming to a place of being and presence and wholeness and self-responsibility. To do, meaning to create a place where we're, comfortable and physically well, or not here in our bodies anymore, which
Right.
is, I'm done. I don't need to do this anymore. Yay. And and all that kind of stuff. So when we do, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So when we ignite that power of our full being, right, then we
Oh, I love
we
that.
we let go of the need to even we let go of the need to have any of that in our identity. We have
Right.
so we don't need chronic illness anymore. And or we might not see how it serves us yet, but it might serve us in some other way because it might motivate us someplace else. But then we can also shift ourselves to say, I don't need to be motivated that way anymore, so I don't need it.
Right.
Lots of levels. Um, and I can accept where I am right now as perfect in my full divine power, and I can change it. Yeah, that feels really good. So those are things just I'm getting to talk about and how um, and Joy writes, yes, everything in my life is manifestation of my own creation. So true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the biggest key, the biggest key there is coming to that place. And it goes back to that unconditional self-love, right? To be able to take that self-responsibility because, like a lot of times we'll judge if we don't have that love for ourselves and we will judge, oh no, I would never create that, whatever. And instead we turn that around to say, so why would I create that?
Right. Right.
When there's no judgment there, there's just the question of, okay, so let me see what it is I created this for so I can remember and
So I
change
can go
it.
on. Right.
That's right. Let me get past, I always just say, let me shift beyond this now. I'm good.
Right. Right. Right.
So, yeah. So that's where it feels like, yeah, a nice little, I can see the little ignition fire there going, a little spark.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah. So let's just go do that. I love that. That's a great creation for today. Ignite the power of my full being and everything else that ties it together, that allows us to remember how to be, to do from being,
Right.
to do from being, period. Yeah,
Oh,
that
I feel
that
that.
feels, yeah, I feel that too. There's
Feel
the
that
yawn.
burden. Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, let's go. You ready? Oh my goodness. That felt really nice.
It did.
It was funny in the beginning, it was like we're in this nucleus of all of this stuff, like that was like energetic, just whatever. And all of a sudden it was like we shot through the membrane of that to just, and then there was this explosion of energy that just was so expansive. Really nice. Of course, I don't know if you heard my cat then decided, as he always does while we're in the middle of doing that, he starts being fucked.
I didn't hear him this time. I don't know if I was just that far out, but I didn't hear him. I what I what I heard at the very end was, okay, now go do the magic. Go practice your magic. Go
Nice.
practice your power, and because that's where the remembering comes from, is the doing from that place.
Yep.
So
I
go be
saw
magic.
I saw some really interesting stuff because, of course, Metatron was there with the porridge, which I was laughing about, and, and I'm like, what the hell with the porridge? I don't get it. It's like, but it was almost like, looking at the whole, like the metaphorical thing of the apple in the Garden of Eden, right?
Right,
And so like basically what I got was, okay, so metaphorically, if you want to look at that, right? So the apple was really removing it from the tree of knowledge, which is our knowledge as a whole, right? And
right.
it was
Separate.
deciding to break away from the whole to forget, and that's really what it did, was make us forget. But that was part of the lessons that we wanted to learn, right?
Right,
And now it's to remember that we're not, that it's not just, that the porridge is the whole thing. It's the whole tree.
right.
It's the seed, it's the root, it's the plant, it's the fruit, and we're all of that. And I was like, okay, except I'm not sure still why it comes up as porridge, but I'm cool with that. I'll
Yeah,
take it.
right. Yeah,
But
it's
I mean, I got the metaphor. I was like, yeah, okay, and that's the being part. That's the being to do, right?
yep,
The doing from being is like being the tree and remembrance and being the magic, and then the creation comes so easily from that effortlessly. Yeah, that made a
right.
lot of sense, and it just felt really good. And then I was like, okay, I don't need to see all this stuff. I just am feeling. Let me have the feels. Let me go. So
Yep.
that was really nice. That was really nice. Joyce said, thanks. Thank you so much for that. Very appropriate and helpful for me today. Well, you're welcome. I'm so glad this worked.
Yeah.
This worked really
I
easily.
know. Yeah.
Yay. Yay. So we will see y'all next week at the same place, same time. Hopefully we'll be able to actually get on at 9:30 because it was just a little delayed in figuring out the little details. But thanks a lot, and we're signing off. This is Angela Coulter, and
Sarah Sieg, Avignone.
signing off on this week's Ascended World. We'll see you next
Thank
time.
you. Bye.
Bye.